Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and to today's video. I hope you're all doing well. So today's video is going to be my makes video and I'm going to be talking about everything that I made during the month of May. So this month I made 3 things, 2 dresses and 1 skirt, and I think we can tell that summer is approaching because all of my makes and all of my thoughts about makes have been mainly about floaty viscose dresses and skirts and things like that, and I couldn't be happier about it. So this month, yeah, I've got 2 dresses and a lovely floaty skirt to show you, so I'm looking forward to chatting all about them today. So without further ado, I will get straight on to talking about my makes because I feel as though these ones I may waffle on quite a lot about. So I will be talking about what I'm wearing a bit later on in the video, but first of all I'll talk to you about the first thing I made this month. Well, was it the first one? I was kind of making 2 things together actually, so this is a joint first make and I've only got 3, so I'm going to call it the first make. Anyway, the first thing I made this month was my Stylark Bonnie skirt. So this is the Bonnie woven skirt pattern by Stylark. So you can see that it's a midi length skirt, it buttons all the way down and it has this lovely flat front waistband, and then part of the back of the waistband is actually elasticated, so I thought this would be a really good one for summertime. Really kind of cool, comfy sort of style to wear that you can just throw on with a t-shirt or a cami top or something like that. And yeah, I really liked the styling. Again, as always with the Stylark images, I really like how they style their patterns, and quite often they'll show you the garment that you actually want to buy, but then they'll also style it with some other garments from their pattern range as well, which I think is a really good way to do it for a pattern company, and a really clever way actually, because it does get you to become aware of their other pattern ranges and their other styles and things, and obviously it gets you to want to buy them as well. One thing I like about Stylark patterns actually is that you can choose only the size that you want to make, and when you choose your size they actually send you the size either side of the size that you want to make. Bit of a mouthful. I chose the size 6 actually because I was kind of in between sizes and I wasn't quite sure which one to make, so with that size I actually also got a size 4 and a size 8. So I kind of dithered around with the sizes for a while and wondered which size I should make myself. I'm a waist 27 and the size 6, the finished measurements are actually coming up as with elastic 24, and then the size 8 was coming up as a finished garment waist with elastic 26. But without the elastic, the waist without the elastic for a size 6 was coming up as a waist 33 inches, so there's really quite a lot of ease in there. But obviously the elastic would bring it in. And then for the size 8, the waist without elastic was going to be a waist 35 inches. So I was really kind of umming and ahhing for quite a while as to which size to make. And in the end I went for the size 8, but it's actually come up a little bit big. So I think this is the dilemma that we always have with elasticated garments. It's really quite difficult to tell how they're going to turn out finished size, because you can obviously, you've got that bit of wiggle room with elastic and you can bring it in or loosen it out as much as you want really, can't you? So I probably should have gone with my first instinct, which was to make the size 6, but anyway I made the size 8 and yeah, it's still perfectly wearable and I've just made a couple of slight tweaks to it to make it fit me a bit better. So I'll get on to showing you the actual garment anyway. So here's my finished Bonnie skirt. So I was making this in one of my recent videos, which was a day in my sewing life video. I was making this while I was doing other things and I just kind of filmed my day. So I will link that video down below just in case you're interested in seeing any of the sewing process of making this skirt. But here's my one. So I made this up without making any alterations to the length of the pattern at all, because I just wanted to make it up and see how long it was before I sort of fiddled around and altered anything, because I did want it to be on the longer side. Obviously I normally need to shorten things because I'm only 5'3". I think this is drafted for 5'7", so it probably does come up longer on me than it should do necessarily on the pattern, but obviously it doesn't matter really, it's just personal taste, isn't it? So yeah, this comes to about mid-calf on me. I will put in some pictures as well, but I really like the length that it is actually, and I won't shorten this next time I don't think, because I just really like how it's turned out. So you'll know from my video that this make really was a super simple make, really kind of smooth sailing up until I came to the waistband. And fitting the waistband for this skirt was really tricky, and I think it has been said, and I've mentioned it before, that style art patterns, the instructions can be quite on the vague side. And I think Style Arc know that themselves, because I have seen them post on social media or something about trying to make their patterns a little bit more comprehensive and a bit more easier to understand. So I did struggle to see how they were trying to get me to fit the waistband in according to their instructions. So it did take me a little while to get my head around how to fit the waistband in, and in the end I just did it my own way. So basically the skirt is made from a back piece which is cut on the fold, and then you've got your two side pieces, the two opening side pieces, and the button band is just made as part of those front pieces, so there's not a separate button band or anything, but there is a separate waistband, and the waistband is slightly curved just to give a more sort of flattering style. So the waistband is cut in three parts. You've got your back waistband, which is the elasticated bit here, and then you've got your two front pieces of the waistband. And the waistband, if you can see from my skirt here, which is quite busy, the elastic is only in sort of the middle part of the back skirt. And then the two front pieces of elastic that kind of come to sort of just round your side here, so it's not a fully elasticated back waistband. So if I just open the skirt, I will show you the inside so that you can see how I've finished my waistband. So here's my elasticated piece here. So the pattern does tell you to actually sew your piece of elastic to the waistband before you make a casing or anything, and then you're supposed to stretch the elastic and sew the bottom seam. So your bottom seam is effectively raw, and then you attach your two side pieces and you kind of encase this back bit in the side seams of the front pieces, and it tries to tell you somehow in the pattern how to finish this bit here in a neater way, I think, to what I've done it. So I've just overlocked the bottom of the elasticated piece and I've sewn it on, and then I've attached my two front pieces, and then as neatly as I could I've kind of encased that back bit there, which works fine and it's neat enough for me because obviously no one's going to see that inside bit, and it is overlocked and everything, so it doesn't matter too much to me. But I really dislike it when I can't figure out what a pattern is trying to tell me to do. So if anyone has made this skirt and knows how to work out the Style Arc way of attaching this waistband, do let me know in the comments, because it's really frustrating me, and it might be that I've actually done it in the way that they're telling me to do it, I'm not sure, but I feel as though it should be slightly neater than what I've done it. So either way, it's done and I'm really pleased with it. And I absolutely love this skirt. I wore this last night actually when we went out for dinner for my husband's birthday, and it was really, really comfy and lovely to wear. I love the button down front. I've just used some big black plastic buttons from Hobbycraft that I picked up from there, and used it to button all the way down. Excuse my white overlocking actually. I mentioned in my day in the life video that I just that day couldn't be bothered to change my overlocking threads because I was in a bit of a hurry. I don't think they noticed too much actually, but yeah, I just wasn't in the mood to thread up my overlocker in black thread that day, so I didn't. Oops. But anyway, it's fine, and I love this skirt and I really would like to make many, many more. I think this would work really nicely in like a viscose linen or a chambray or something, or a plain fabric as well. This fabric, by the way, is a viscose poplin from Abercombe Fabrics. I'm not sure if they've still got any in because I did buy this quite a long time ago, but it's really lovely, really nice to work with. I think the poplin in their viscose poplins, it just makes the whole thing a bit more easy to work with. I think the poplin must give it a little bit of a crispness or something. Let me know in the comments if that's true, if you know. But yeah, really, really lovely fabric. This is the second colourway that I've used of this print. I've also made my Midi Darling Rangers dress in this print as well, but this is the black background and the sort of more orange colourway. So yeah, that's my first make, the body skirt by Style Arc. So my next make is actually what I'm wearing, and that is the Taika blouse dress pattern by Named Clothing. So this one I've spoken a little bit about in my previous video, saying that I wanted to make it and how much I loved it and everything. So it was a real sort of pleasure to make this one up this month. I really, really enjoyed it. So this is a new pattern that's just recently come out by Named Clothing. It's the first named clothing pattern that I've ever actually made myself. So it was really nice to have a go at one of their patterns. So you can see from the line drawings here, and if they don't show up very well, then I'll just pop in an image as well. It's a really kind of romantic sort of almost like Renaissance style dress, maybe. I don't know, quite a vintagey style, almost nightgownish look dress, which I really liked and I was really attracted to. It's got this completely buttoned down front at the front, front of the front. It buttons down completely, and then underneath the bust here, there are two sort of curved parts to the bodice which button up here, and they come right underneath your bust. Bashing the chair there. They come right underneath your bust, and then you've got all of your skirt pieces are made from lots of different panels, and they lengthen down from right underneath the bust. So yeah, it's a really lovely design. And then the sleeves, as you can see here, they're almost elbow length sleeves with a really lovely gather here, and then an elasticated cuff with a little bit of frill here. So this is a very me dress, I thought, and I loved it as soon as it came out. So the problem that I had with this pattern is that apparently, I didn't realise this, but named clothing patterns, they do draft for the taller person at 5'8", and I'm 5'3", so I knew I would have to shorten this one. And there aren't actually any lengthen or shorten lines on this pattern. So it stumped me for a little while as to how I was going to shorten this dress, because there are a lot of panels to this. And yeah, I just wasn't quite sure how to go about it, but in the end I shortened every single panel of the skirt of this dress from the bottom up by 4 inches. It should have actually been 5 inches based on the length the pattern should be, but I actually wanted this to come up a little bit longer, so I only shortened it by 4 inches, and I thought I would just do that for the first time I make this dress and just see how I feel in it, and maybe next time shorten it a bit more. I just literally followed the lines around the bottom of the hem and shortened up from there, if that makes sense, and then redrew the hemline. Yeah, that worked fine. So this was a really lovely sew. So you sew together all of your panels, and then you gather in your bodice pieces, and then there's a separate button band to each side of the front pieces which you attach. And then the neckline is actually finished with a separate facing, and then your sleeves are attached. So I'll just put in a couple of images of me wearing the dress so that you can see where the length falls. So it finishes kind of just above ankle length on me, which is fine and it's perfect. And I think this is a really nice length actually for just wearing my sandals and even trainers and things like that. Another slight problem that I encountered along the way with this pattern at first was that I actually fell between two of the sizes again. So I actually fell between being the smallest size on the bust and then the third size at the waist. And because this dress is actually quite fitted across your waist, I didn't want to sort of give myself too little room to manoeuvre, so I ended up cutting the pattern in two separate sizes. So obviously you've got your bust pieces and your back piece, and then for the skirt pieces I actually cut the third size, which is a size 36, which brings the finished garment waist measurement to 27. So that was the finished garment measurements, and I am actually a waist 27, so I was a bit worried it was going to come up too small. But actually it's worked fine. So I think it's absolutely fine if you do fall between two sizes to cut the bust sections and the sort of skirt sections from two different sizes. That's what I did, and it worked okay. You may just, of course, just need to gather in a little bit more under the bust just to get your bust sections to fit into your skirt sections, if that makes sense. Because your skirt sections are obviously going to be slightly bigger than your bust sections. So that's the way that I chose to do it, because obviously you can't really grade because you're cutting two separate pieces of the pattern. So yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled with this dress. I cannot wait to make another one. I've got some fabric lined up already to make another one of these, and it's a lovely black floral by Stop and Still, which I shared recently in another day in the live video. I think I was just sharing a few fabrics that I picked up, and one of them was from Stop and Still. So that's the second make, my Taika blouse dress. So my third make was a bit of a speedy one actually. I'd had this in mind to make for quite a while, and I did share that I was planning to do this, but last week I just had that feeling where I was really sort of itching to sew something and I wanted to sew something that would be quite involved and a bit challenging and everything. So I decided that I would sew up my version of the Lyra dress that buttons fully down to the bottom. This is very long and probably very difficult to show you on the camera, so again I'll put in some images so that you can see it on. So I'll just show you the Lyra dress pattern first so you can see what I've done. So I'm sure you don't need me to show you this really, very popular pattern, the Lyra dress by Tilly and the Buttons. So this is a romantic style shirt dress pattern. It has a kind of traditional shirt style bodice to it, and then you can either make it as a midi length dress with two tiers like this one that the model's wearing on the front, or you can actually make it with short or long sleeves, but you can make it as a knee length dress with a straighter style skirt. So I've actually made multiple different versions of this pattern. I've made a almost standard style one of these as it was from the pattern with short sleeves, and I really loved it. And then after that I decided I would play around a little bit with the skirt layers and tiers of the midi dress of the pattern, and I've added the skirt to lots of different bodices, my favourite dress bodices really, and made lots of different versions of the Lyra dress with different bodices. So yeah, another hack that I wanted to try for this spring and summer was to see if I could make this dress as it is, but so that instead of just having the bodice buttoning down and then the skirt attached as a whole to the bottom of the bodice, I would try and adapt the pattern so that it buttoned fully down to the bottom, because I'd seen so many dresses like that on the high street and had considered buying another pattern so that I could make a similar one, but when you've got a pattern like this in your stash already, it just seems silly to buy another one. So yeah, I decided to have a go at hacking it into a fully buttoned down shirt dress. So here's my version. So you may remember that I picked up this really lovely fabric on my local market stall. So I live in Bedfordshire, and every now and again on a Friday we have a fabric man come and normally I have to say he doesn't have any fabrics I'm particularly interested in. They're more sort of cottons and laminate fabrics and things like that. But this particular Friday he had quite a few viscose fabrics on, and I really liked this green one, so I picked up 3 meters of this lovely fabric for £7. So I managed to make this entire dress with some left over actually for all of £7, which is amazing, isn't it? I posted this fabric on Instagram and so many people asked me about it and where I got it from, and at first obviously I couldn't link it because I got it from the market. But I've since found out that Rainbow Fabrics had some in stock, so if they still have some then I'll link it below if anyone's interested in this fabric. So the way I went about adapting this pattern is I made up the bodice as it is. You'll probably notice that the sleeves are slightly different, but I just went for the short sleeved version of the bodice, and all I did was I used my adapted tiers. If you're interested to see how I adapted the lengths of these tiers, then I'll link my blog post down below just to give the measurements and everything that I use. So my tiers are slightly different from the actual Lyra pattern. In the first tier is shorter and then the bottom tier is longer. So yeah, I cut the tiers as they are according to my preferred measurements of them. I cut my back tiers on the fold, as you normally would, and then instead of cutting another front tier on the fold for both pieces, I literally cut those tiers in half so that I had 2 pieces instead of 1 cut on the fold. And then I extended the button band right from the top down to the bottom, so I had to redraw the button band pattern piece to make it long enough to reach the bottom of my very long dress. So doing it that way did mean that I had to sew up the dress slightly differently from how the pattern recommends. So I put together most of the bodice first, and then before I attached this button band on the collar here, I actually attached my skirt pieces and then the full button band, and then I added on the collar. Because if you've made up the Lyra dress pattern, you'll know that the Tilly pattern actually gets you to make up the entire bodice before you attach the 2 tiers for the skirt. So yeah, I just did that slightly differently. And then when I came to try this on, I just felt as though the sleeves were a little bit sort of plain and boring and didn't quite go with the sort of more romantic feel of the rest of the dress. So I decided to bring them in slightly with just a single row of shearing around the cuff. I could have done an elastic channel, and I may do that next time, but for this one I'd already made the sleeves up and hemmed them and everything before I decided that I wanted to bring them in. So I thought just a single row of shearing would be easy, and it just did the trick, and it's brought them in really nicely. So I can't tell you how much I love this dress. I love it so much. I'm really, really pleased with how that turned out. I wasn't quite sure whether it would work or not. And I did put it off for a little while because I wasn't quite sure how I was going to adapt the button band and everything. But when it came to it, it was a fairly simple change to make. Literally just lengthening the button band and sewing up the dress in a slightly different way. So yeah, I'm really thrilled with that one. I'd really like to make a long sleeve version of this as well. I think that would be nice for the winter time. And I did actually make the belt as well, just to bring it in at the waist, and I think that looks really nice. Yeah, so what more to say about this one? Oh, I just mentioned the buttons actually, because you might notice that I've got exactly the same buttons on this dress as this one. So these are kind of shell buttons. I bulk bought a huge bag of these from Amazon because I needed some similar for some project or other. And I use them all the time. I've used them on my patina blouse, I've used them on other blouses, on lots of button down dresses, and they actually just go with everything. And I'm terrible for buying matching buttons. I'll often make a project with buttons on it and then just realise when I've got to the end of it that I don't have any matching buttons. So these ones are really handy to have just to add to anything, and they go with anything. And sometimes I think, like with a green like this, it's really hard to get buttons that match nicely. I guess I could have used white buttons actually, and that would have looked quite nice. But yeah, definitely getting my money's worth out of those buttons. If I can, I'll link them down below for you. But yeah, that's my third make, button down Lyra dress. So that brings me to the end of sharing everything that I made in May. I've really enjoyed this month. Dresses and skirts and things, as I said, are just my favourite things to sew, and I really enjoy a pattern hack as well. So it was lovely to try out that Lyra dress hack. Let me know in the comments below what you're sewing or what you're planning to sew for summer, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you have enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you give it a like, and I'll look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye!